Hey friends, happy Tuesday, the 18th of June. It's nice to be with you. I am Father Bill Hill, priest at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. I'll share with you a reflection on the daily readings. The readings are linked below. Click the link, read the readings prayerfully, and then turn off the screen. Spend some time with God before you move on to other things. We have readings from the first book of Kings and from Matthew's Gospel. Yesterday we had the setup for this story that Ahab the king really wanted a vineyard. The owner didn't want to sell it. It was his ancestral property. And so then Ahab's wife, Jezebel, devised a plan to have elders swear false oaths and lie, saying that Naboth the Jezreelite had cursed God and king. So then they killed Naboth, and Ahab took possession of the vineyard. And now we have consequences of that. And so, I mean, it's a pretty, direct, confrontational sort of a story as Elijah the prophet speaks, words of punishment towards Ahab and towards Jezebel. I've heard it said that one of the great contributions of Israel and of the prophets is in our understanding of rule of law. Nowhere else, especially in the Near East, but nowhere else was the king held accountable to the law, right? But you think about the story of David and Nathan the prophet. And after David had Uriah the Hittite killed and then raped Bathsheba, his wife, Nathan prophesied against him. And that's David, the good king. Here, Elijah prophesies against Ahab because of murder and false oaths and allowing Jezebel to do these sorts of things. Even the king is held to the standard. Perhaps, if we find it beneficial, the place to pray into would be, where am I sliding? Where am I not holding myself to my own standard of integrity? And always we want to be compassionate, generous, merciful. Like our standard is not perfection. But still, there might be ways that we're just kind of sliding. And the Lord might invite us to pay attention to that and to ask for the help that we need to be the people we want to be. Okay. The end of this reading, it's not good for our modern ears. It's a challenge. Because after Elijah prophesies against Ahab repents. And the scribes who tell this story a couple hundred years later tell us, for this reason God decided to bring punishment to the next generation. And we read it and we're like, what? No. We have to try to understand ancient context, right? And we also do not take our theology of God from these kind of passages. This is very common. And we see this multiple times in the law, like do good and God will bless through the generations. But do evil and God will bring punishment across the generations. Intergenerational stuff was not out of the ordinary for Israel. The scribes who are describing these stories a few hundred years later are attempting to tell the story primarily, like their primary theological point is like, look, Israel turned away from God and God brought punishment. And all of the bad stuff that has happened in the history of our ancestors is because of choices that our ancestors made. Therefore, make good choices, right? Like that's the primary goal. But they also are able to see, punishment didn't happen in Ahab's time. Why? He repented. But bad stuff happened in his son's time. Why? Sins of the father, right? Like trying to understand the big sweep of God's action over the course of the generations. And it's going to take Israel a couple hundred years after these stories to start reckoning with like personal responsibility and not generational problems. Even in the Gospel of John, right? Remember that man born blind, that story? The disciples asked Jesus. It's a vestige of this stuff. Who sinned, this man or his parents? And Jesus says, no, that's not what it's about. It's so that the glory of God can be revealed. So I don't know. I don't know that I have a point with that necessarily, but I share that with you because I don't want you to hear that last line of like God bringing punishment to the son, and then we start wondering, man, maybe there's stuff outside of my control that I can't even do, right? Like, no. Turn to the Lord. Turn to the Lord in love and mercy and compassion, and let that be enough. Okay. Matthew's Gospel, we're in the Sermon on the Mount, And last week until today, Jesus is reinterpreting the law of Moses. Today's the last one of these. And he takes the law of Moses and he reinterprets it with a higher spiritual standard. We have the same thing. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and you shall hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And I do want to just reiterate what I said yesterday, especially in situations of like abuse and really bad stuff. Don't take these messages of Jesus saying that you just have to stay in the situations and allow people to abuse you. You are created in the image and the likeness of God. You are a beloved child of God. And we have boundaries and we stand up for ourselves as well. But yes, to love our enemies, to pray for those who persecute us. And lots of us in modern times might say, I don't have an enemy. But you have people that drive you crazy. You have people that irritate you. You have people that you struggle to love. You have people that you are harboring resentment and unforgiveness and hardness of heart toward, right? Yeah, you've heard me say that I really like the Sacred Heart of Jesus because it's an image of Jesus who will give us transforming love in our own heart for people maybe that we struggle with. So as you read, pray for your enemies, or love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Don't just think of enemies, blood feuds, but open it up to all of those that we do not love as we love ourselves, the great commandment of Jesus. And pray for that transforming love of Jesus to help you to love them with the love of Christ. All right, friends, happy Tuesday. May it be a blessed day for you. Read those readings prayerfully. Turn off the screen. Spend some time with God. God bless y'all.